Howdy, and happy Saturday to everybody. I wanted to jump on a live because just in the past few days I have had a lot of messages from people over on Instagram, on the OCD Warrior page, from people asking me if I think it's OCD that they're experiencing. They're sharing with me parts of their difficulties, their experiences, things like that. So I wanted to hop on a live to kind of explain what it is and what it isn't, because there is a huge misconception about what OCD is. So I'm going to give it a couple of minutes for everybody to tune in if you want to. There is no obligation to stay. If you do not know what OCD is or you don't experience it yourself, you do not have to stay. However, there is an announcement at the end of the live video that isn't to do with what I'm creating now. That is very, very important, and it's something I feel very strongly about. So at present in the UK alone, there is 1.2% of the population all either undiagnosed with OCD but are experiencing it, and diagnosed with OCD. So 1.2% of the population. So if you think about it, the UK population is 66.65 million people in this country alone. 1.2% of that is 799,000 people in the UK, all experiencing and struggling with their OCD to the point it has impacted their quality of life. It has left them very isolated, very stereotyped, and there is this huge stigma attached to what it is and what it isn't. So that's part of the reason why I've began creating the Warrior Way, i.e. the OCD Warrior, as a powerful movement in reducing that stigma and reducing the stereotype and providing education for people that don't have OCD. So what it is versus what it's not. So one particular question I was asked was organising, liking things in a particular way. Yes, a lot of people assume it's to do with cleaning and germs and just liking the perfect show home. That is not OCD. That is linked to perfectionism, wanting things perfect, and versus like expectations we place on ourselves, thinking that we should have the perfect home because what we see on Facebook, what people post, and comparing ourselves and placing self-judgment. That's linked to perfectionism. There is a diagnosable disorder called OCPD, which is obsessive compulsive personality disorder. They're completely two different disorders, and they do both need diagnosing by a trained professional, i.e. a psychiatrist, to be able to fully diagnose them and explore any other disorders that may be running along with that. Hi Susan, hi Yasmin, hi Jodie, hi if you're just tuning in. So part of the reason why people with OCD struggle so much is because of the stereotyping that's attached to it. So when people who don't know what it is assume it's to do with, fair enough, being obsessive about something that we actually enjoy. So there's plenty of t-shirts, mugs, the rest of it out there that says obsessive Christmas disorder. You know, it's not a fun way to describe OCD. OCD is very, very debilitating. It's very difficult for people to live with. So it's not a quirk, it's not something desirable. I can tell you now from personal experience, I would not desire to have OCD. I would have preferred not to have it, but now I see it as something that was necessary for me to go through to be able to help more people. So that's the way I see it. So the reason the stereotype comes up and so many people struggle to manage their OCD, or even learn that actually intrusive thoughts are normal, hi Stephen, is because of this misconception about what it is. Hi Claire. So when people think, well, OCD is about cleaning, it's about germs, it's about health, you know, even, you know, a fear of catching HIV. We've all seen the TV programs and articles, obsessive compulsive cleaners, we've seen hoarders, stuff like that. So stuff we see in the media. And if you saw my recent article on Khloe Kardashian using her OCD, the OCD she was, thanks Claire, using the OCD she experiences as close CD and using that to market for breeze. That is one of the reasons why it gets stereotyped so much. So because when OCD is triggered, we expect it to be something to do with cleaning and to do with all the stuff that the media says. So we actually struggle to accept that intrusive, scary, horrific and disturbing thoughts aren't actually normal, that we're not supposed to be experiencing them. And that's the part of the issue why people struggle to come to terms with the diagnosis. They start doubting it. And from personal experience, I spent almost 12 months believing that I was turning into somebody that had schizophrenia. I believed I was going to experience psychosis. It's very, very scary to not know what's happening with your mind. And this is why there is so many people who won't speak out about their experience. So the powerful movement I'm creating with the OCD Warrior creates that confidence in knowing that what happens in our brain is normal. We have creative imaginations just as much as we can daydream about positive things. There is always the yin and yang to that. There's always the opposite side. Our imagination can always create the dark and disturbing stuff, and it's completely normal. But because of the way it's televised and the media, the way they portray it, and the games that come up on apps that are purposely directed at people who they think have OCD, and it's to do with games and perfectionism, and it's really not. So it creates this stigma where people think that they can't talk about it because they will believe people will think they're absolutely nuts, or they're a risk, or they're dangerous. Some of the manifestations with OCD, they manifest in some of the most sickening. Thank you, Darren. Some of the manifestations of OCD, it's a huge spectrum. So there is no particular list that I can give you because it's all to do with about what that person fears. It attacks their inner core values, the things that they value the most. If they value the family, their OCD may attack that and generate these very creative thoughts, images, intrusions that are attached to that. So when I say spectrum, it's infinite, because every individual has different things that are important to them, and it will attack those. So there's no way that I would be here for, I don't know, weeks, reeling off all the ways that OCD can manifest for people. The other misconception is that there are different types of OCD. There isn't. There's only one type of OCD. There's the obsession, which is the intrusions, and then there's the reaction to it, which fuels the need for the compulsions. The thoughts aren't OCD themselves. They're normal for everybody. It's the responses and the reactions that create that disorder. There are also perfectionism that's linked to OCPD, which is the obsessive compulsive personality disorder. There's also body dysmorphia, which falls under the umbrella of obsessive compulsive disorder. There is the abbreviations as trick and derm. I can never pronounce the names, but one is otherwise referenced as skin picking disorder and hair pulling. So there's also those two that fall under the umbrella of OCD. So while they do fall under that, those particular subsets within the OCD umbrella I don't work with. However, I do know many people who do. So if you are watching on the replay and you recognise this, or you have a diagnosis and you're still struggling, please get in contact with me, and I can point you in the right direction of getting some support that I maybe not can't provide for you. Another thing that's come up most recently when I've been sharing about this new movement that I'm creating, and more excitingly the membership that I'm creating for the OCD community, I've been trolled, believe it or not, trolled, because I coexist with my diagnosis. I coexist with OCD. I see it as it was a necessary journey for me to start living my purpose, what I feel I was placed on this earth to do. And I can appreciate those years that I went through, that I struggled, and I've mined as much positive as I could from it. I have sustained remission now for just over 2 years. That's not to say I am cured or that the OCD is gone. The thoughts are there because they're normal. Remember what I said at the beginning, we're not supposed to fight ourselves when it comes to thoughts. I have worked very, very hard to be in the place that I'm at now, where OCD really does not bother me. I can have any thought that is sick, twisted, disturbing, and I know it's utter bullshit and it's ridiculous because I know where it's coming from. The trolling that I've been experiencing in support groups is I must not have OCD that severe, or might not have had it that severe because I was able to gain remission pretty quickly compared to other people, or that because I'm so positive about it and I can understand it objectively, that it means my stuff wasn't as bad, so I can't possibly understand it. Now, everybody's journey with the disorder is completely unique to them, and just because I'm in a place now doesn't mean that I didn't suffer back then. If anybody wants to know about my journey, I have a book on OCD, on my journey with OCD, and the particular manifestations that I experience. So if anybody does want to read about that to understand it a little bit more, it's on Amazon. It's ebook or paperback version. Anybody's more than welcome to purchase that and understand what it is. Maybe if you haven't got OCD yourself but you want to learn, because you never know what somebody else is going through. Even at the supermarket yesterday, there was a lovely lady behind the till, very cheerful, very smiley. We got into a conversation and it went into the realms of check-in rituals and anxiety and fears, and we had an amazing conversation. But just looking at her when I first got to the tills, I wouldn't have known. You wouldn't have guessed it, because mental health does not discriminate. OCD does not discriminate. It doesn't matter who you are, it can attack those values. So just because I'm in a position that's really positive now and I use my diagnosis as a force for good, does not mean that I didn't have it as tough as what other people have now. And I kind of wanted to clear that up, you know, because it's easy for people in support groups to see how much good I'm creating right now and how driven I am by my purpose to helping people, to help them see that there is another way, that they can start to live life that they want to live instead of being under the control of this awful disorder. And I guess it looks a little bit intimidating, or, you know, you may sit there and think, oh, it's easy for her to say she hasn't got it this bad. You know, she's not in my shoes, but I have. And I've worked hard, and that's what I'm sharing with everybody within the Warrior Way community that I'm creating. So yeah, I wanted to come on and just clear a few things up about what it is and what it's not. What I am creating at the moment under the OCD Warrior brand with the Warrior Way membership is an amazing little analogy that explains what it is that I do and what I don't do. So for those who inbox me and comment on my posts, either on my page, on Instagram, in support groups, that believe I'm a therapist, I am not a therapist. I am what is known as an expert by experience, because I've lived it. I've implemented tools, I've learnt tools, I've trial and errored lots of different things to find my own unique toolbox to go through life, because it's not a one size fits all. OCD is not a one size fits all, and the journey to remission doesn't work the same. That's like me saying to you guys, if you struggle with anxiety, try crochet because it works for me, so it'll work for you. It doesn't. It's individual. So the easiest analogy and the most epic analogy that made sense to me was when we learn to drive, we have an instructor. The instructor's not teaching us how to learn to drive. They're teaching us what we need to pass the test. The learning to drive comes afterwards, over experience, becoming confident and empowered in your ability and capability to drive a car. You're kind of reinforcing your driving skills every time you get behind the wheel. So with therapy, hi Marley, with therapy is amazing. It's the most important step in self-care that you can do for yourself, is giving yourself that chance with a therapist. It takes an immense amount of courage, but it is on the right path. It's the biggest step you will take. So imagine a therapist is like a driving instructor. And your therapist is giving you and sharing with you all of the tools and strategies and understanding yourself to go forth after therapy is finished to implement everything that your therapist has shared with you. It is up to the client to implement those tools. A therapist can't do that for you. Now, when therapy comes to an end, with OCD typically it needs to be good quality CBT with ERP elements, which is exposure response prevention, for a good 10 to 12 weeks. It's no use going for a couple of weeks because it's not realistic. It will take between 10 and 12 sessions, if not a repeat round. I started finding an issue with it when I was listening to people. Many of you know I volunteer with OCD Action, the charity, as a volunteer peer-to-peer support facilitator. So what that means is I jump on a call once a fortnight with people living with OCD that need support, that need to be heard and listened to and validated and supported. And we do once a week facilitate. And there was one common theme that we was in was when people come out of therapy, there is no continuation. So just like when you've passed your test and you go forth into the world to learn to drive, we're nervous, we're not as confident because we don't have that instructor sat at the side of us. We don't have that holding hand to keep encouraging us, to keep bolstering that confidence, to keep empowering us to move forward. That accountability, that positive accountability, to know that we're doing things right, we're heading in the right direction. That's the same as therapy. When therapy ends, there is nothing on the other side of that to keep us motivated, to keep giving us, it's that cheerleader saying, yeah, you're getting it right, you're smashing it, you know, to celebrate those small steps. There's nobody there to do that. And it's easy to see, thank you for sharing, Lisa, it's easy to see why people will start to fall back and start taking steps back, and how OCD can kind of slip back into its usual cycles because there's no accountability there. And the tools that are used in therapy it's a framework that they learn, particularly if a therapist has only learned from a textbook and doesn't have much experience with working with clients with OCD. Many of them do, but these tools and strategies are not one size fits all. And it takes for somebody to bolster that confidence in exploring different things that we can implement, to helping somebody to take those tools and strategies and tailor them to their personality, to their lifestyle, to the way they live. I have 4 kids. Some of those tools would not work for me because realistically, I do not have the time. My attention is demanded every second of the day. So I needed tools. I mean, at the time I only had 2 and then 3, and then obviously Ivy came along. I realistically don't have the time to implement some of those tools. So I had to find a way that worked for me. And that's what I do. I bridge that gap between therapy and the continuation to remission. That's how I do it. Make sure you put your contact info for your warrior community. The group is open. It is a free group. However, the details of the membership will be coming soon. I am working very, very hard at the minute to get everything off the ground and up and running. I'm so excited to get stuck in with this and start helping as many people as I can and watch them turn into absolute powerful warriors in their own way. By warrior, I don't mean somebody that's always ready for fighting, that it means that there's always this fight. There isn't. A warrior is somebody who stands in their own power, that claims their space in the world, that is confident in who they are, their capabilities, their abilities, that knows that there is another way. They don't have to keep struggling. There is another way. How long that takes each individual, I don't know. I know many that have struggled with OCD for 10, 20, 30, even 40 years plus. I struggled with it for 7. I gained remission within 4 or 5 and carried on building. So actually it's the last 2 years that I've had pretty much 99% remission. The rest of it has been a journey to get there. We cannot go from A to Z. There's no shortcut to get from one to the other. It is a step-by-step process. So to get from A to Z, you have to go through the alphabet. You need to go through the other letters to keep reinforcing that, to keep building that confidence, to keep looking back at your progress when you think, I'm not making much progress. When you stop and take a look back at actually how far you've come, it's very, very empowering. And that's what I do. That's what I'm creating, is giving people the opportunity to regain their power, to regain that confidence that actually, even though it's pretty shit right now, it doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. And I can do things for myself to get to where I need to be. When people don't know what tools and strategies and things they need to be able to get there, it's like being in a rowing boat with one oar. You're going to go round in circles. I'm the second oar to help you get to go where it is that you want to go in life. And I'm so excited. So anybody who is watching on the replay that does struggle with OCD and wants to connect with me, please pop me a message. I will give you the details about the Warrior Way membership. I will also provide you the link with the Warrior Way free community support group that everybody can have access to. And finally, the last little thing that I wanted everybody to stay on until the end for is completely separate to what I'm doing, but it's important nonetheless. The absolutely phenomenal lady that I'm working with, that's helping me with this membership and getting everything off the ground, is Desislava Dobreva. She is otherwise known as the branding queen. She is amazing, and she has a huge heart when it comes to cats and rescuing cats and finding a home for them, particularly in her home country, Bulgaria, where she's at the minute. The mistreatment of cats is awful, even in the UK. I know it's nowhere near as bad as other countries, and one of her own little fur babies was a rescue. I'm sure there is a story about how her little fur baby came to be with her. She's just shared this gorgeous cat that is on the streets over there with people that are constantly trying to poison her, and I cannot abide humans that want to cause suffering to animals. When, interesting fact about me, up until I turned 17, I wanted to work with animals. At first it was a vet. I decided against that. I couldn't deal with the gore of being a vet. Then I decided I wanted to be an RSPCA rescue worker. I didn't go for it because I wasn't a strong swimmer. There were elements to becoming a rescue worker that I would not have got. I could have continued to progress to that, but my life went in other directions. However, that doesn't mean that I can't advocate for animals. She shared this gorgeous grey cat this morning. I saw it on one of her videos the other day. I spotted her straight away. She's stunning. And Des has posted up this morning, you may have seen me share it, Des has posted up about this gorgeous little cat, Mima or Mima, I'm not sure which way to pronounce that. I'm sure if Des catches the replay, she'll correct me on which is the right way. And Des is actually offered to help out with the fees to get her over here. She needs a home. You know, I would not like to think of how an animal feels when they know that somebody's constantly trying to end their life. It's abhorrent to me that people want to cause that kind of suffering. Just because they're an animal doesn't mean that they are less important. And I admire Des for how passionate she is for, you know, wanting to create change. So if anybody is looking to rescue a cat, please, hi Hayley, please go on to my post that I shared earlier. There's a picture of her with Des's name. I've shared Des's post. Please get in touch with her. I would have loved to have taken Mima on. However, I'm not allowed and I'm gutted. But I have made it a mission now to find her a home because she needs one. No animal should have to go through life not knowing when somebody's going to attack them. Cats, to some people don't think cats are important as dogs. Even in this country, you know, when we see one knocked over, that it's not law to stop And I think that's awful. It's law if we knock a dog down, but yet it's not for cats. These are people's pets. These are parts of people's families. These are members of people's families, so they're just as important. So if anybody is looking to adopt or wants to support Des in her mission to reducing just how much cats are mistreated and unwanted, please go and take a look, and please connect with Des. She's incredibly inspiring and so fiercely loving towards cats. That's just my Bella just jumping in the background. So please go and do that. Contact Des, get in touch, or if you can, if you physically cannot give her a home, please just share the post. Go onto the original post and share it. I promise you, it's not one of these scams. You know, Des is legit. Please go and take a look, because I really want her, and I'll be very jealous of whoever gets her, because she is so beautiful and she deserves a loving home. So if you are a cat lover, or maybe not a full-on cat lover, but you would like a fur baby addition to your family, please get in touch. For me, if you do one thing for me today, I never ask anybody to share my live, I never ask anybody to comment, no, nothing. But if there's one thing that I ask everybody to do, it's just go and have a look. And if it's not for you, you don't want a cat, you don't want a pet, there's going to be somebody on your friends list that's going to take a look at that. So if you do anything today, please just share the post, and let's find either Mima or Mima. I've got a funny feeling it's Mima. Find a home. I hope that by the end of today that she's found her new parents, because she's beautiful and I'm gutted that I can't have her. And that's all for me. I thought I would just pop on and share with you what it is that I'm up to, what it is that I do, kind of debunk some myths about what OCD is. I always like to say, if you like doing something that seems obsessive, it is not OCD. If you do things just because that's the way that you like them, that is perfectionism, not OCD. However, perfectionism can feature in OCD. OCD is a very, very scary obsession, i.e. a intrusive thought or image, followed by absolute crippling anxiety and fear that forces you into the need to do compulsions. So if you fear it, and you fear if you don't do something, then yes, explore whether OCD is the cause of that. If the fear is missing and the anxiety is missing, it's not. Obsessions without fear and anxiety is desires. It's something somebody desires. So somebody that says they have an obsession over a celebrity, every time they see him on the telly, they have an obsession over Love Island. They're not obsessions, they're desires. There's a huge, huge difference in those, and along with the Warrior Way and what I'm creating with that membership is also coming public as much as I can to debunk all of these stereotypes that are attached to OCD, because when that starts reducing, people living with OCD will start to feel heard, will start to feel seen, and will start to feel more confident about who they are and what they're not. So thank you everybody that has tuned in, that has commented. You are all amazing, and it's absolutely scorching where I am. So I am going to pop off and enjoy the rest of the day. We have a little girl's birthday tomorrow, and I will be back live on Monday to dispel some more myths. So thanks for tuning in.